Peace and good morning. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your Foul Player. Want to make this video regarding um, some statements made by Tank Davis recently and last month regarding his wanting to fight the winner of Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. But I also wanted to comment more importantly on like the stop of fights that could be happening in the future. I've mentioned this in the past as far as like this stupid promotional shit that's happening now. As far as PBC sort of holding the cards at welterweight and how that could manifest itself to where other promoters, namely Top Rank, um, start doing the same thing to them in to a sense as far as trying to drown them out in the promotional sense. But recently and last month, Tank Davis mentioned, like I said, that he wants to fight the winner of Mario Barrios, I mean, of Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Tank's best work is at 130. He's since I believe vacated um, his titles at 130. Don't quote me on that, but he's fighting Mario Barrios, I believe, at 140 next. I mean, is that a terrible fight? No. Is that a necessary fight? Not really. They're fighting for a bullshit belt, and Josh Taylor actually commented on the fact that uh, Tank Davis showed a willingness to fight him if he were the winner of Josh Taylor after he fights Jose Ramirez. And Josh Taylor pretty much dismissed him and said that he wouldn't fight for that Mickey Mouse belt because it's kind of what it is. I mean, like, you're jumping up for argument's sake two divisions and you're competing for a belt off the rip. Granted, I think Mario Barrios is undefeated at this point, but he's not um, bell ringer in that sense as far as name recognition or competing for a belt. But uh, Josh Taylor showed no interest, and he should do that. I mean, is there a chance that and it's very likely that Tank Davis is trying to clout chase a little bit here, like maybe in the lead up to this fight, which I think is happening in June, trying to bring some sort of attention to it. And I pray to God that this fight's not on pay per view, but you never know with the PBC. But I mean, nobody's checking for that fight. I mean, like nothing that the PBC has coming down the pipe, like coming up shortly, is any fight that anybody's talking about. Nobody's talking about um, Jamal Charlo's next fight against I forgot his name already. Nobody's talking about uh, Ugas against Errol Spence, and that fight hasn't even been formally announced because once it does get formally announced, people are going to trash it, and that's I think if it were a free fight like Jamal Charlo fighting whoever his name is in June, if they announce that, I mean, and it's free, I mean, people wouldn't trash it as much. But when you announce a fight like Ugas and Errol Spence for $75 or $65, um, then people are gonna have all the reason in the world to trash it, like me, which I'm not gonna pay for that fight. I'm gonna watch it maybe after the fight even happens on YouTube, or I'm gonna be team stream. But nevertheless, you know, so nothing that they have coming down the pipe is like anything that anybody's really riveted up about. Um, I'm actually surprised that this Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez fight doesn't have more fanfare or more people talking about it, and it's about to happen in a few weeks or in a couple days. But moving on though, I think that there's a strong possibility that Tank Davis may have been clout chasing, as far as him mentioning the winner of Ramirez and Taylor. But I don't think Bob Arum would allow that fight, based on like what boxing is right now. Would I like to see that fight? There's a lot of other fights I'd rather see, but would I like to see Tank Davis get in there with the best composition that he's ever been in there? Yeah, I mean, even though I think Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor would beat the shit out of Tank Davis at this point, and I think Tank Davis is a hell of a talent, but I think Tank Davis is a lame as far as the moves he makes and how serious he takes the sport. But you know, and even before I get on to the promotional things, the implications. Actually, I'll cover that first though. But Bob Arum is not going to want to do any favors to PVC, knowing full well that at this point, if Tank Davis is moving up to 140, it's probably because Tank Davis is having a devil of a time making weight, which he's already exhibited that in the past. So at any point, a young fighter like Tank Davis, who's probably like 24 or 25, I don't know, is going to be at 147. Now, you think about all the guys in PBC that are going to be at 147, say in 2024 or 2023. You could pretty much bet that Errol Spence is not going to be at 147 any longer at that point. You could pretty much bet that Sean Porter is not going to be there. Danny Garcia is not going to be there. Ugas, who cares? But he's not going to be there. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But the people that will be there are going to be like Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, um, maybe Tiafimo. Um, what's his face that fought Josh Taylor recently? I haven't slept, so you have to forgive me. Progress. Um, you know, you have all these people that are going to be Devin Haney, maybe. Well, all these people are going to be campaigning at 147 soon. And the top names, I mean, like, are probably going to be Josh Taylor, a combination of maybe Prograis, maybe Ramirez, if he comes out the victor in this Josh Taylor fight, or if he loses and then beats Prograis, which I don't think he could. Who knows? Actually, I don't know about that. But all these people like are not on PBC for the most part. I mean, like Prograis is like a free agent in a sense. I mean, I think he fought Triller his last fight, but a lot of this smug attitude that a lot of PBC defenders um, are partaking in right now when it comes to Bud not being on the right side of the street and not having competition to face um, because he's on top rank. It's going to be switched up in 2 years maybe. And I don't celebrate that, even though I'm coming down on PBC more than like any other promotion by a lot recently because of the bullshit that they're doing with this Errol Spence and Bud Crawford thing. Once that those tables get turned in a few years, and somebody like Tank Davis or Boots Ennis is on the outside looking in, you know, it's not gonna be like I'm gonna like yeah, I told you guys so. Like it's not gonna be like a winning moment for me or like for any boxing fans. I'm not a top ranked supporter. I'm not a promotion supporter. In fact, I hate every fucking promotion. Like because they every promotion is taking a fight or several fights away from me at this current juncture. Every promotion is acting hoish right now, namely or mostly PBC more than any of them because they have the most fighters and are giving me the least fights that I want to see. And I don't want to see again Ugas versus Errol Spence. That doesn't count. Like that's not even a good fight for me right now. I mean, like if you were to put Postal versus Regis Prograve, I'd rather see that than fucking Errol Spence versus Ugas. And that's mostly because of Ugas. I'm not gonna front like and make it seem like Errol Spence ain't a draw in that sense, but Ugas was gifted that belt. Ugas has like very little fight history of before fighting Porter, and I'm just not riveted by that fight. I mean, like, could you blame me? But you all these promotions, I mean, like they're my adversaries right now, and the biggest adversary I have as far as promoters go is the PBC. But when, like I said, those tables get turned and Bob Arum, or hopefully Bob Arum has croaked at that point. Not that his stepson is any better. It's Todd the Buff, whatever his name is. But when Todd the Buff or Bob Arum or Top Rank, whatever have you, are holding the cards in the future, you know, and they're like acting hoish to the PVC, which they will do. Um, is that gonna be a reason for me to celebrate or like to gloat? No, because like that's probably more deserving in like boot tennis, and somebody who's more talented than Errol Spence is gonna be shut out of fights and is gonna be forced to jump up to 154, which I think he'll do really really well at 154 boots. But is that necessary? No, it doesn't. It's not necessary. The glamour division 147. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna lose its glamour in the future because of this new crop that's coming up. But right now, it's like the wackest division. It's one of the wackest. I mean, because the two guys that are supposed to be fighting each other, I predict aren't gonna fight each other. It's almost a guarantee that Errol Spence and Bud Crawford aren't gonna fight. They're both being hoish. Errol Spence a little more, or Errol Spence far more. But and a lot of it is due to promotions. Partially Bob Arum, but mostly Al Heyman and the PVC. So I mean, like um, the only good that'll come of that is that you get that turnover in the division because the division was popping a few years ago when you had that Devin Alexander, Amir Khan, Tim Bradley, um, and these guys were like at 140 and they were like the next names like to come up. You had Birdo, you had Danny Garcia, and like a lot of these guys, you know, Amir Khan. I mean, as much as I diss him, I mean, like Amir Khan, like fought Danny Garcia. He probably didn't have to at that point. I think Danny Garcia wasn't with the PBC at that point either. But he also went and fought Peterson in DC with the worst judge of all judges, Joe, whatever his name is, I think Cooper, um, in DC. The same judge that got Pritchard Cologne like in a vegetative state because of his horrible judging. Um, Same judge that I've seen. I think he blew another fight in Canada. He's a terrible judge. But Amir Khan went and fought Peterson in DC in his home turf, and he took a loss. I mean, like that fight could have been a draw. I had Peterson winning that fight, but Tim Bradley. Tim Bradley has a resume, and I said this before, a resume, and I don't like Tim Bradley like one bit. I think Tim Bradley's I didn't like him while he was fighting, except he after he fought Pacquiao, not because he beat Pacquiao, quote unquote, because you know um he took on homeboy the Russian cat and like almost got his shit rung in even though he won that fight. But you know, needless to say though, like all those guys like fought each other. Devin Alexander, if I remember correctly, fought Berto like way too late in the game. But if anything, Berto was the one that wasn't like fighting. A lot of the names that we wanted him to fight. I think because he was supposed to be the next biggest thing out of all of them. I thought, and he got like shut down in the process. But Virgil Ortiz was the name that was in and around that division. What we have now, I mean, a lot of those names um have way bigger fights than Errol Spence is ever gonna have at 147. Virgil Ortiz fought Mayweather. Virgil Ortiz fought Berto. Virgil Ortiz fought Maidana. Virgil Ortiz, all these big, those are humongous names. Another name, Maidana. Maidana fought Mayweather. Maidana fought Amir Khan. You know, those are way bigger fights than anything that Errol Spence had, and a lot of those fights were free. But that division was popping at that point. Do I think that this next crop is going to be as good as that past crop that I mentioned of the last decade? No, I don't think so. I mean, unless you got like a couple names that I'm not mentioning right now, or that aren't being factored in right now, but I don't think so. And I could pretty much say that no, that division is not going to be popping like in the future because the whole promotional standoffishness that we're seeing right now, mostly perpetrated by the PBC. I want to keep repeating that point. But as far as Tank Davis, I think this is at the end of the day, it is clout chasing. Um, there's a lot of fights that Tank Davis could be fighting right now that don't have to be at 140. I mean, why not fight Tiafimo? Tiafimo's already talked shit about you, and people are gonna say, "Oh, well, Tiafimo was clout chasing or talking shit." I ain't hear Tank Davis talking shit about Tiafimo. I heard Tiafimo was talking shit about Tank Davis. And people say, "Oh, well, he's just chasing money." Like Tiafimo is like way broker than whatever Tank Davis is. He probably has more money than him. And I'm not saying that because Tiafimo's from my neighborhood, but because I'm not like a dick rider like that. How many Lopez videos do I that have I made? Like making it seem like he's top billing, and the dude literally like grew up like 6 blocks from my block. But why not fight Oscar Valdez? You know, shit, fight Victor Postal. Like he's a gatekeeper status. Fortuna would be a nice fight. For Tank Davis, I mean, I don't think he's gonna fight him, but I think Tank Davis right now is at a point where he's probably looking to get paid every fight. I mean, do I blame him? I don't know how beating or winning his last fight against a dude that was coming up in weight merits a pay per view performance every time. And I think he mentioned that post fight that Tank Davis is like now a pay per view fighter, like from here on out. Whoopee, like which I mean, like who says shit like that? Like somebody who doesn't even fight that often, like twice a year fighter at best. Now is announcing that him beating a scrawny, smaller, light punching Mexican guy who he was struggling with now merits him to be a pay per view fighter, for all time. I mean, like, this is what boxing is right now. Whack. But, you know, um, there's a lot of fights that he could be taking on. I mean, like, him and Teofimo were to fight, I mean, it would unify the division. I mean, I don't know if at that point they would still have all the belts, like, but theoretically, I mean, like, if Tank doesn't lose the belts, like, I mean, like, and Teofimo doesn't lose the belts, then that would be a great fight to make, and it would unify that division. But they're not gonna do that. Um, Tank Davis isn't calling him out either. Um, shit. I mean, like Lomachenko fight like would be dope too. I mean, Lomachenko is pretty much a investment that Bob Arum probably knows he can't make much more money on because he hasn't made much money on it in the first place because Lomachenko isn't a big money fighter. I don't think he's never had a pay per view like that he's carried or you know why don't you try to make that fight? Like throw a bag at him. You've only avoided Lomachenko in your career, and you could beat Lomachenko, or he could have beaten Lomachenko. But make that fight. But of course, no, there's no fights for him to make at 130 and 135. It's only looking at the guys who are fighting a division up from him, um, and try to entice them into a match. But that's what boxing is—a bunch of bullshit. And needless to say, Tank Davis is a PVC fighter, and it's pretty much what they do. A lot of pre-fight clout chasing, which a lot of boxers do, but now you know, the PBC's trying to hone in on that action too. Like, you got Errol Spence um, speaking on fighting Canelo Alvarez now. Um, that's fucking cringe. I mean, like, if he gets battered by Canelo Alvarez, Errol Spence is gonna have a big head about him. Like he's shit. Canelo Alvarez's biggest selling point is losing to Mayweather. Imagine what Errol Spence, who already has a big head about himself for doing nothing, imagine what he's gonna think about himself after getting his shit beaten by Canelo Alvarez. He's gonna think he's Jordan or some shit. But let me know what you guys think. With that, I'm out. Boxing sucks. Peace.